Never Alone is a love story that's very personal to me. My little sister was a recording artist. 3 years ago, she unfortunately was victim of her own mental unease, and she died by suicide. And she died the day where she had finished her second album. So for me to be able to dive into who we are as artists, what we have to offer, what our secret worlds are, and how we share that inner world with you all might be the solution to help people who are struggling in the invisible world of their own mental health. And that's why Never Alone Artists exists. And hopefully we shall create a beautiful movement of healing and loving presence. So thank you for joining us. We'll see where it goes.
Welcome, Deepak. Welcome, Dillon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's going to be a fun conversation.
Yes.
You are never alone.
No.
Right? So let's kind of jump into it. Our goal today is to really have a conversation about how you connect with yourself. Talking to you, your dad was a meditator,
Yes.
alternative medicine practitioner, Yogananda Ashram. Share about your journey, how you connected yourself deeply.
How I connected with myself deeply. I don't know if I fully have yet, but to kind of get into the business that I was in, I had to go through a lot of trials and tribulations. Some of the best things that happened to me were really bad things. Like when I was younger, I got a DUI when I was 18, and that actually forced me to push myself into figuring out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And so that actually made it so I would go and produce music. And I moved to Atlanta at the time when I had that DUI and learned how to make music, and came back and stayed in my parents' back house for a year. They made me pay rent, so it wasn't for free. Yeah, I stayed in my parents' back house, and I didn't really have a social life, and I just worked towards that goal, and then I was able to keep achieving it as I kept setting up. I set up really tiny goals too, but I feel like that helped me find a sense of self in terms of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to create in my life, because I'd always been a creative. I went to art school, and so yeah, I feel like failure has always been a really good thing for me.
So Deepak, what's your perspective on time, right? Because the DUI happened at that point, and that time he was probably like, oh my God, this is the worst thing that happened. But life is so non-linear. You talk about time and the arc of time. Can you share, like, when we look at something that's so bad right now, and we think this is the worst thing happened, the dark night of the soul, and you look at 5 years later and you say, oh my God, this is the best thing which happened. It gave me, this whole new trajectory. When people are going through a crisis, what is your perspective on that?
Let me ask you, how do you feel now?
I mean, it was the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like, I wouldn't be here today if that didn't happen. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
And when you say you're more in touch with yourself, what do you mean by that?
I mean, I feel like I'm more in touch with myself in terms of what I want to do. At that time when I was going through that, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was interning for clothing companies or working for as an intern for writers. I was doing everything. I was just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what would stick. And then finally at that moment, that's where I fully was like, all right, I'm just going to delve into music and see where it takes me.
And have you lost your desire for substance abuse?
I'll drink every now and then, but yeah, I definitely don't drink as much. And I think that definitely separates me from a lot of people that are in my industry, because that is a big thing that can happen where if you're playing in nightclubs all the time, it can be very easy to be like, oh, well, I have free drinks, so I might as well partake. So I definitely don't drink as often, and I didn't get another DUI, so thank God.
It's complex, Addictive behavior is very common amongst teenagers, but even amongst young adults. And then if it persists, it can lead to all kinds of chronic illness and depression and anxiety and guilt and humiliation and shame and depression. So addiction or addictive behavior in one way or another is the #1 epidemic of our civilization. The music thing is very interesting because, when you play music and you enjoy a particular type of music, your body makes opiates, which is the same as, we call them endorphins, but they're opiates. If you give somebody Narcan, which is a narcotic antagonist, they stop enjoying the music. Now, the opiates your body produces are also immunomodulators. They modulate the effect of the immune system. Mm-hmm. And yet musicians that are very high risk of addictive behavior because of some of the factors you outlined.
Yeah.
So there's a thin line between spirits and spirit. Mm-hmm. And you have to move from spirits to spirit. Ultimately, addiction is the memory of pleasure which is now painful. It's the memory of pleasure which is now painful.
So I think when you look as an artist, you have all these millions of followers, you have people doing amazing things. How do you cope with anxiety?
I don't have too much anxiety from social media. I think one of the songs that actually got big for me was this song called it's a pseudonym IDGAFOS. And it means I don't give a fuck or shit. And it was basically my way of telling people that I don't care what they think about my music, because I always made everything. I made, dubstep or house music or this genre called moombahton. So I never really had anxiety towards that because I've always been a free-spirited person in what I want to do. And the main thing that I have anxiety for, I think, at least, is just for waking up for flights. That's about it.
What are your thoughts on it? I think anxiety is like the precursor, right? I mean, I think if you look at art, everybody starts off with anxiety, and then it starts off getting off the flight, or the next one is like, I got to perform in front of people. You were in Life is Beautiful, and I loved it.
See, I don't even have anxiety for that.
Yeah.
I think I have more anxiety if I would be performing in front of nobody, Like if I was performing,
How was that during the pandemic when you actually DJs were just playing in their living rooms, right? How was that?
I think I had more anxiety for playing those shows than I did for playing anywhere else, which is bizarre because I think that the anxiety you have is that you clash with your ego because you're like, I'm gonna have to say, everybody jump up and down, and nobody's in front of you that you could actually see doing that. It's like, do I look weird? Do I sound weird? Does my voice crack? My voice cracks all the time when I'm playing live, so.
Anxiety is the misuse of imagination. And creativity is the best use of imagination. So anytime you have anxiety, channel it into creativity. Which is apparently what you do.
I try to as much as possible. And the funny thing, to go back to what you were saying with your body creating those opiates, I mean, when I make music, there's a certain point where it sucks probably up into like 85%. I'm no joke. Like, just sounds horrible. You're again throwing spaghetti at the wall. There's this part where like all the dominoes start just falling correctly. It's the best feeling in the entire world. Yeah, it is.
That moment is where you have no resistance, no anticipation, no regrets. You're just in the flow. Mm-hmm. No time.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I loved from music so much is. From being in my parents' back house and doing that, it was where I kept hitting that flow so many times. And that's what helped me keep just moving forward with music.
All artists, all athletes have experienced flow. And that's what keeps them going. But if you understand the mechanics of flow, which is, as I said, no anticipation, no regrets, no resistance, just being in what we call timeless now. Everything slows down and you feel you're in the groove and there's no time. Now that's called a peak experience, but we can make that a peak living experience. Why don't we feel that all the time?
I wish. But then I feel like it wouldn't be great to feel it all the time, because then you would want to go to the next level.
You can trigger it
by
going to that place inside you, which is already still. Like you're listening to me right now, if you just turn your attention to who's listening, feel a still presence. That's not your mind. That's the space between your thoughts, which is the window to spirit.
So during the pandemic, you started off the Happy Machine project.
Yes.
So kind of walk us through your thought process for starting it, and then where is it right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's the album's done. It was one of the most fun projects to work on, because I was really just trying to figure out what was going to make me happy during that time, and what would hopefully make other people happy. And I was listening to a lot of piano house music, more like euphoric type of music, and I was also struggling trying to figure out what I was inspired by or what I wanted to make. And I knew I wanted to, kind of take the journey onto doing a new album. And from that, it just all kind of started falling into place, and I kind of, was able to go into that flow of making one track and then making the next one, and basically reaching out to people that were sort of making the same music as well, and have connection through that.
I just wanna real love.
Deepak always talks about sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. And when you have this feeling, when you say, I was happy, what did it actually evoke in you or invoke in you?
It just kind of lets you not worry about anything else. You're just kind of in the moment. Another genre of music that does that for me is I wake up and I listen to either samba or like any bossa nova music. When I put that on, I feel a sense of happiness, and that I don't have to worry about anything, and I don't feel stress. And it puts me in a mood where if someone asked me a question, I wouldn't try to slight them if the question made me angry. That's the only way that I can really describe it.
Deepak, what are your thoughts on happiness? And you have a very interesting perspective on joy. And so just can you share your thoughts on that?
So, happiness is always for a reason. Joy is happiness for no reason.
So I should have called it Joy Machine instead.
It's the next version, the 2.0 version of that.
And all the research on happiness shows that only 10% of your happiness comes from situations, circumstances, events, or even relationship. 50% of your happiness is determined by whether you look at the world as a problem or as an opportunity. So unhappy people always criticize, condemn, complain, play the victim. Happy people ask themselves, what's the opportunity? So that's 50% of happiness. 10% is situations and circumstances, including money. And then the remaining 40% is whether you have meaning or purpose in life. So if you use your music to give people joy, that's meaning and purpose. And also, if you know how to make other people happy, that's the fastest way to be happy. And give them deep listening, attention, appreciation, affection, acceptance. You make them happy immediately. But that's happiness, it's not joy. Joy is innate. You look at a little baby, and unless it's wet or hungry, it's joyful for no reason. And it has curiosity, wonder, it smiles, waiting for you to smile back, looks into your eyes. That's innate. That's not for a reason. So joy is what in wisdom traditions is also called bliss. It's beyond happiness and sorrow, beyond pain and pleasure. It's your essential state of your being behind your mind. So the mind is always jumping, good, bad, right, wrong, sinner, saint, all that stuff, right? But behind that is a witnessing awareness that's joyful, irrespective. So in a way, your song is a statement. You have to be joyful, you have to be independent of the good and bad opinions of the world, immune to criticism, responsive to feedback, beneath no one, and above no one, and totally fearless. That is joy.
Put that on right below the song.
Laughter happens when you are comfortable with paradox, with ambiguity, with contradiction. Then you laugh. So if you have to explain a joke, it's not a joke, right? Yeah.
But I do like, Deepak, do you want to share the joke? How do you make God laugh? I like that one. You should share those two jokes. I love that one.
You know why God is laughing?
I don't.
She gets the joke.
I want to get it too.
Yeah. Well, if you want to make God laugh even more, tell her your plans.
Okay. Oh, wow. I like that one. That's an even better part.
When you look at this whole thing about frequency, you talk about the 528 hertz, the love frequency, the 444 hertz, the spiritual frequency. Do you use any of these techniques when you mix music, or do you have a vision how you want to do this in the future?
I haven't done that yet. I haven't even really researched that, but now that you're saying that, I feel like I should research that and do that. Yeah,
we'll do it together.
Definitely, please, because I mean that sounds
We have
really
a lot
fun.
of research on that.
Yeah, I would love to see it. But yeah, that sounds like a fun
How
thing.
brain waves respond to music, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I feel like the love one would be really good to put into my projects.
Yeah, the Beatles used to use that frequency.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, songs like Let It Be. If you
The
remember
Key of
that
C.
song.
Yeah, of course I remember that song.
That's the frequency of love.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking about the frequency of love, right? What is love?
I think we should ask him.
No, but let's start with you, and then Deepak definitely will answer it for you. But what does love mean to you? And are there moments in your life where you felt love?
I think this was love, but going back to my music, it was that song IDGAFOS. I remember exactly where I was. I was in my parents' back house, and I was making the melody to it, and it's a super happy melody. And I remember just like each moment, the MIDI that I was moving around clicked in correctly, and I was literally jumping around as I was listening to it. And right as I got to the end of the phrase, I was like, "Oh my God!" Holding my head, just being like, "I can't believe this. This is the greatest thing I've ever made." And at that moment, I really thought it was, and that just gave me this like. I don't know. It made me feel like I could really do what I was doing, and that I knew that I had chosen what I wanted to do correctly. It was like a very pivotal moment in my career of making that melody, and I just knew it at that moment too.
What is love, Deepak?
Most people think love is a sentiment or emotion, which it is one aspect of love. But ultimately, love is unity consciousness, when the music and the musician become one, when the seer and the scenery become one, where the lover and the beloved become one. So when you see yourself in another person, that's called love. When you see yourself in an object, that's called beauty. Beauty, love, truth are fundamental realities of the universe. So love is the ultimate truth at the heart of the universe.
What is the opposite of love?
Fear. Fear is separation.
So today the world is going through so much of eco-destruction, borders are collapsing, hate, a lot of it's coming from fear.
All of it is coming from fear.
How can music heal?
Music takes us to a place which is beyond in the internal dialogue. You know, Shakespeare said, "The man that hath no music in himself is fit for treasons, stratagems, and spoils. The motions of his spirit are as dark as Erebus. Let no such man be trusted." So the person who doesn't enjoy music, you can't trust them.
Obviously, Dillon, we trust you immensely. All you do is music. What is your vision when you look at your craft and your love? And how do you what's your vision for what do you want to do with your music for the world?
I mean, it's really what Deepak just said was, you know, just create that moment where you're not thinking about anything else. You're just there in the moment, and you're not worrying about, you know, if you have to do anything when you get home, or, you know, if you left the stove on.
If you're playing music and thinking about the end of the song, you're not playing it. And if you're listening to music and wondering when it finishes, then you're not listening to it.
Yes, I want people to not think about that. Just be in the moment.
Right.
That's really what I want to do, and just, you know, make people happy from listening to it, and then from making music videos, because that's what makes me happy. Making people laugh and making people smile.